Alright, so this is my first video I'm actually doing on YouTube. Go figure, the fat kid doing a video about metal, whatever. Screw you haters. The reason why I'm doing this is because I realized that nothing online, there's no reviews of Mayhem on pretty much any of their albums. Older albums, whatever, not that big of a deal. We'll get to that some other point. The main one that I'm really kind of bugged about is their newest album. Metal has been growing over the last decade, and this is kind of a staple album for any part of any subgenre of black metal, and I'm really kind of bummed that there's nothing out there. As well, take matters into my own hand. Anyone that has never really listened to the band probably knows the history and the controversies that surround it. We'll get into that into another video. That's another point. This album, 2007, Ordo at Chao. It is a term, it's incorrect Latin, which means order to chaos, which is a take from the Masons, order from chaos. And it is very kind of symbolic because most of the symbolism in the album is kind of howling mockery to the Freemasons, and in the end, the Illuminati. In my personal opinion, it's just riddled all throughout the album, and it's very brilliant. First off, we'll talk a little bit about the history of black metal. Anyone that really knows anything about it, you already know this. For those that don't know anything about it, this is pretty much the point. Back in the 80s, it started with bands like Venom is obviously the number one band everyone talks about because of their second album, Black Metal. It went on to spawn many other albums. We call them Suit. It has spawned other bands to kind of play the same Motorhead style, metal, fast, in your face. What they also did was kind of how sparked the imagery, the satanic image. Many years in the past, in the 70s, the church and the establishment always associated rock and heavy metal every day to be satanic in nature. So they pretty much decided we'll be satanic. It was very much about the imagery. So you saw a lot of pentagrams in the 80s. You saw a lot of black mass style robes. You got torches. Eventually, to the point, following suit in Scandinavia, everyone decided to take a little bit step further. Mayhem themselves actually started in the early 80s, around the same time as the black metal album actually came out, alongside Battery's first album, right in that same area. That's where they came about. They never really got any big releases until their EPs, Death Crush and Pure Fucking Armageddon. They never really went out and kind of got big. They didn't really get noticed, They only played stage shows here and there, And it was, I would call, the black metal Jesus. You got what was black metal in the 80s, and they wanted to incorporate it, but they wanted to take it a little bit further. They wanted to, it's in metal, it's always one-upping your predecessors. You see something you like, you try to outdo it. You're satanic, we're going to be the real deal. So they said. Really, with the earlier sounds, it was more aggressive, almost death metal in sound, but it was still really kind of thrashy. Even death metal back in the day was very thrashy in nature. Death metal, black metal, all came from thrash. You can argue that point. So be it. You can make your own video. But honestly, it comes down to Slayer, Show No Mercy, Haunting the Chapel. They were really kind of the first ones to kind of get that real thrash influence, talking about Satan, talking about death, talking about Nazi Germany. Well, here come some boys that lived in post-World War II, growing up in the post-Nazi era, and like everyone else in that time, an age of rebellion, watching horror movies. So even the lyrics were kind of death, destruction, necro lust, Death Crush, um, Carnage, Chainsaw Gut Fuck. A lot of these were just kind of very death metal. So, but they weren't really happy with it because at the same time, all these bands in Sweden were doing the same thing. You know, they were kind of feeling that they try to one up everyone in the Florida death metal scene. So they really wanted to put more into the Satan image. Really big classics, but they eventually tried to help spawn something different. Eventually, the Finnish black metal scene would kind of keep with the more death metal kind of sound, but even more satanic image, a satanic black metal, death metal cross, you know, with Barrett, Archgoat, but Mayhem really kind of started that deathy, blacky. You know, they weren't even really what they would call the first Scandinavian black metal. Dark Throne, their first black metal album, was really the first one actually released by Death Like Silence. Whatever. That's the history as far as I'm going into it. You want to find out the controversies, watch a different video from someone else, wait for me to talk about it, go watch a movie or book talking about it. Lords of Chaos has done justice in slaughtering the crap out of it, whatever. This album, it's been almost 30 years since their original starting point. This is going to be as unbiased as possible. It's probably going to be more of an opinion than an actual review, but I do kind of find it interesting. To me, like I said, 80s black metal was really about the imagery. It wasn't really about actual Satanism. A lot of bands, you know, in the 90s started going more satanic, but really, at the root, even when you get into heathen metal, Viking metal, pagan metal, that all kind of spawned from the black metal, it was really anti-establishment, one way or another. You think Enslaved, later Bathory CDs, when we get into the Viking, is very anti-Christian in the sense that they wanted to become heathen again. You know, Burzum even talked about this. You think Marduk, when they get really satanic, very anti-Christian, you know, very anti-Semitic, very anti-establishment. Not very often do you really get in the political standpoints, but politics and religion pretty much go hand in hand. To me, and probably to a lot of people that might find it fundamental, black metal is the absence of everything. You think not only just black magic, everything's inverted to the cross. You know, you think void, you think jet black, you think absent of light, you think absent of rules. So you get anarchy, you get chaos through order, you get black, you get negative matter. You know, everything is obsolete, everything is gone. This album, in my opinion, is probably the pinnacle point and probably the crown jewel of any black metal album from any other band. You know, they've always been forerunners, many years ahead of their time, regardless through troubling times with death and suicide within their camp. They've always been one step further. And a lot of people might never want to say we follow suit, but they always end up following suit. So I would hope many bands might actually take this as another chapter. And I don't want to say clones, because I really hate black metal clones of other bands that have already done something great. But I hope they take influence and try to incorporate something along the same lines to really try to get that void out.